last episode of our WhatsApp clone series, we built a UI table view controller and the scaffolding that we needed to make that work. In today's episode, our focus is going to be on building our BubbleTextView, this component right here. And so this should be a lot of fun. We're going to have to create our message item model and some of the other custom view modifiers that we need to make this work. So let's get right into write some code. All right, let's open up this left panel. Still inside of our chats folder. Inside the views folder, let's create, actually inside of the chat folder, let's create a new model, a new group, sorry, not model. And let's call this group models. And then let's create a new file. We're going to call it message item. Okay, so this is actually going to be the data model that represents a message. So a message item, we want it to be identifiable because of, SwiftUI for each. And we want it to have a text, which makes sense. It's of type string, right? And we want it to have something called direction. So what's a direction? Let me get out of Xcode and show you what I mean. So for messages that I sent by the currently logged in user, they appear on the right side or on the trailing side of the screen. So that we could say that message direction is, for example, sent. Meanwhile, for messages that are received, that you are receiving as the currently logged in user, that is sent by one of your chat partners, we could call that as received. And so we need an enum to represent this sort of like data model. So we're going to go down here and we're going to create an enum called, message direction. That sounds like a good name. So the case is going to be sent and received. Okay, also let's create just a static variable for us to get the random element for a message direction. This is mostly for debugging purposes. Random element, else would default it to sent. So now direction is going to be of type message direction, and we need an ID, of course. So let's say ID is equals to uuid.uuid string. Okay, that's pretty simple. So now let's go create our bubble text view that is going to represent each one of these specific items. And to do that, let's go inside of our views, inside of our chat folder, and let's create a new file, which is going to be a SwiftUI file. We're going to call it BubbleTextView. I think that's a pretty good name. And let's expand Xcode all the way. Boom. Let's resume our Xcode preview. Make sure everything is working. And it is. Okay, so if we look at the BubbleTextView, like what is this specific element here? This BubbleTextView, it's just, if you really think about it, it's just a text. And with some styling, well, with some alignment that allows you to anchor it to the leading or the trailing portion of the user's phone. So for us to get started, I would like for us to just create a test component. We already have a text component. Let's just say, hello world, how are you doing? And then we need, let's throw a pattern to it. Let's give it like a pattern of 10, right? And let's give it like a background color of something like color.red, right? Pretty good. We're making progress. Now let's give it a clip shape of, rounded rectangle with a corner radius of 10 and style of continuous. That looks pretty good. Let's change this from color.red to actually one of the WhatsApp colors, asset colors that we already imported. There's one called bubble green. And look at that. That looks pretty good. So we have our clip shape. We have our text components. Now, the last bit that we sort of need to add to it is to align it to the left and right and add this tail. So if you notice this, we have like this leading, in this situation, the leading tail, and we have a trailing tail. So to build that is actually pretty easy. So all that we need is to just create a component that's going to be responsible for that bubble tail view. I have already provided an image assets. And so if we go into our asset folder, if you open the chats folder, you would see an outgoing tail and an incoming tail and outgoing tail, which is really what's going to be responsible for us doing this leading and trailing message bubble tails. So let's jump back into code. Let's go into right underneath our bubble text view. Actually, you know what? Yeah, right underneath our bubble text view, let's create a new SwiftUI file. Let us call it, bubble tail view. I think that sounds like a pretty good name. Okay. So what is bubble tail view? Well, let's get into it. First off, we need to know what direction the message belongs to. So create a direction for bubble tail view. And then bubble tail view is essentially just an image. Like we just showed, we just took a look at it in the assets folder. So we're going to create an image that based on the direction, if it's a sent message, it's going to have an outgoing tail. And if it's an incoming message, it's going to have an incoming tail, as you can see. And so let us change this preview a little bit. Let's put this inside of I don't know, maybe a scroll view perhaps, just so we can have multiple different versions. So let's say we have a sent image, and then we have a received message. So that's what that looks like. That is some good progress. So next I would like to do is to change the render mode to template. So template, and then let's make it resizable. Let's change the frame. So width and height, let's make it 10. And then let's offset it by Y of 3. And let's change the foreground color or the foreground style of this bubble, of this tail, to be based on direction. So I'm going to create something called foreground, or maybe just background color. So I'm going to say based on direction, it's going to be bubble white, else it's bubble green. Then I'm going to pass that foreground style as the background color. So if we take a look at it, let's say we change the background color of our scroll view here in our preview. Well, just background, not background style, just background color. Gee, can't type today. Color the red. Nope. Let's just change this really quickly. Let's give it a max width of infinity, right? And let's change the background color to something like red with an opacity of like 0.1, just so we can see what we're working with. And if we zoom in into our preview, you can see the two different, I feel like red is just a bad color. Let's give it something like gray. Gray might be a better color. Not that that's any better, but I suppose we could bump up the width and heights just so we could see. So let's change this to 40 and this to 40. And sorry about that. If I zoom out, you can see the actual tails based on the images. So I'll change this back to 10 and 10 because that's really what we need. So now we're going to go right back to our BubbleTextView and we're going to go use that. So let's see. BubbleTextView. So now we want to apply that tail on this message, on this BubbleTextView, to either be on the trailing or on the leading or on the trailing side of the text view. But I think a better approach for us to do is honestly to create some sort of a reusable custom modifier. And the reason I think that is the right approach is because we're going to be using this bubble tail view a lot. We're going to be using it in our BubbleTextView, like this current components. We're going to create eventually like some sort of a bubble image view, and then like some sort of a bubble voice view. As you can see, it's going to be a lot of components using this tail view. So in this situation, I think it's just a better approach for us to create some sort of a reusable helper method, a reusable components or view modifier, sorry. And so I'm going to create a new folder. And then I'm going to create a file. I'm just going to call it custom modifiers, a Swift file. All right. So the first things first is let's create a view modifier for our bubble tail view. And the first thing is we need to import SwiftUI. And then I'm going to make this struct private, and you'll see why in a second. So it's going to be of type view modifier. And that view modifier is going to take in a direction. Again, message direction. And then we need to construct the body. All right. So what are we going to do here? Well, we're going to take the contents, the incoming contents, and we're just going to overlay with an alignment that, so, okay, hold on a second. So overlays come with an alignment parameter. And really what we want is we want a situation where if the message is received, we want it to be the bottom leading. And so what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to apply this tail where, as you can see, if it's a received message, like in the case of this white view right here that's highlighted, it's on the bottom leading, while if it's sent, it's on the bottom trailing. So that's exactly what we're trying to do here. Bottom trailing, okay? And then we're just going to overlay the bubble tail view, takes in that direction as well. We already have that direction. We pass that right in. Okay, that's good. Now, I would like to create some sort of, I'll create an extension on view, so that way we can use a function. In an ideal world, what I would like for us to be able to do is to just come into this text view and be able to call some sort of a method on our text component that says something like apply tail, I don't know, and then you just pass in the direction, something like that. So that's really the signature that we are trying to go for. So let's go back to our custom modifier, and let's extend view to have a function called apply tail. And that function will take in a direction, a message direction. Okay, and it will return back some view. So what are we trying to do here? Well, we're trying to apply a custom modifier that we just created. So we say self.modifier, gee, just can't spell today, huh? and it's going to be bubble tail view. The direction is the direction we're already taking in. And right there, okay, why is it yelling at us? Requires view, bubble view conform to view modifier. Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys. I took the bubble view instead of the bubble view modifier. Bubble tail modifier. Gee, these names are all quite a mouthful. Okay, so we have extended that. Now I'll go into our bubble text view, and I would just call apply. And now, of course, the bubble text view itself should take in a message item. So I just call it item, and subtype message item, right? And so now we can say item.direction. And so this is going to yell at us, and we're going to fill that out in a second. And let's go right back to our message item, and let's create some placeholders here. So I generally create placeholders for my simulator. So it's going to be of type message item, and the text is going to be Oli spaghetti. And let's make the direction random. And so now we could go back into our bubble text view and change this to pass in the placeholder right there. And so let's preview this, and let's see what's going on. Okay, so we seem to be having a little bit of issue here, and we can validate that by, oh, I know why. So right here, we're making the background color bubble green, which is not really what we want. We only want the background color of the bubble text view to be bubble green when, as you can see, when it's actually a message that we sent. So we're gonna have to go back into our message item, and we're gonna create some sort of a computer property called background color. And that property is gonna use the direction property. So we're gonna say if it's sent, which makes sense, right? Then it's bubble green. What's going on here? Let me think for a second. What am I doing wrong? Yeah. Oh, we need to import SwiftUI. Sorry about that, guys. I was just wondering why I was throwing errors. So, okay. So if it's sent, we're going to have bubble green, else it's bubble white. And so now we'll go right back. I want to change this to background color with a capital C. We're going to go right back to our bubble text view. We're going to change this to item.background color. And look at that. Boom. If we zoom in a little bit, you can see, oh, this is just swell, isn't it? Let's put this inside of a scroll view just so we can see the preview better. So that's a scroll view. Let's give it a max width, I don't know, of infinity, just so we can see what we're dealing with. All right, and if you take a look at that, you can see the tail. You can see the trailing tail for received, for sent messages. So let's change something with a placeholder. So let's call this sent placeholder. So this is going to be sent. And let's create another one called received placeholder. And this is going to be received. So now I'm going to go back to our bubble text view. I'm going to change this to send placeholder. I'm going to copy this component, paste it right below the other one, and call it received placeholder so we can see the differences. And I'll change the background color of our scroll view to be gray. So color.gray with an opacity of like 0.1. And as you can see the leading tail on this bubble text view as well. All right, we are making some great progress. We are almost done, but we're not quite there yet. So we're going to take this bubble text view. We're going to go right back into our message list controller, and we are going to replace this placeholder text that we wrote in our last episode with a bubble text view. So it's going to ask for an item, and we're just going to put the, I don't know, received placeholder item. Oh no, let's say sent placeholder item. And let's go back to our messages list now. So if we open this and we go to message list view where we can see a preview, and this is what that looks like. Okay, some good progress. We have one or two things to fix, and that is going to start with going back to our message list controller. Let us change some of this, customize some of this table view property. So first off, the cell background color, let us change that to clear, and then let us do cell.separator. Is that what it's called? Is it separator? Well, selection. Yeah, selection style. None. And let's go up here to our table view anonymous closure. We're going to do the separator style table view dot separator. Yeah, separator style is equals to none. So now when we go back to our message list view, that looks like that. Okay, that's better now. It's no longer highlighting and the separator lines have been removed. So we are pretty much 90% done with the exception of the alignments. I would like for us to be able to align things because if we go back to our message, if we go back to our message list view and we scroll down here, and if we change this to like received placeholder view, and we go back to our message list view to see a preview, yeah, it's still not aligning. And the reason that is like all blended in is because the background color is white. We're going to change that in the coming episodes. But for now, let's revert this back to sense placeholder. Let's go back to our bubble text view and let us figure out the alignment issue. So what do we need here? We have a bubble text view. We want to be able to align based on, whether it's sent by the current user or not sent by the current user. And the way I'm going to do that is by creating a VStack, because we also want to have a timestamp for these messages. So I'm going to take this text component, I'm going to wrap it inside of a VStack. I'm going to give it like a spacing of 3. And then I'm going to create a timestamp component. So I'll call it timestamp, text view. So what is timestamp text view? Well, I'm going to give it a timestamp and a sense indicator. So text, let's just say 3:05, p.m. Okay. Let's change the font style to be system size 13, and the foreground style should be gray. Okay, let's put our timestamp text view right below this. Okay, that looks good. All right, we are making progress. The other thing I would like for us to do is I'm going to write inside of this H stack, I'm going to say if message, item, not message, if item.direction is sent. So if it's sent by us, we're going to put this image called that has the sent icon there, seen. So I'm going to say resizable, rendering mode. I'm going to change the frame and height. And make the foreground style something like system blue, perhaps. So it's a color system blue. Okay, there we go. This little check mark right there. Let's apply some style into this overall VStack. So let's add a little bit of shadow, just to give it some riz, as the young kids say these days. So color, system grade 3. The radius, let's give it an opacity. I want it to be like barely visible. I want the shadow to be very, very subtle. And shadow radius of 5 and x-axis is 0. And then let's bring it to 20. So it's pretty subtle, but it's there. Okay. Now I'm going to add some max width. It's going to be infinity and alignments. This is where we do the alignments of whether we're going to align it to the leading or the trailing. So this is the important bit, but we're going to come back to the alignments. Let's go right below that and put a pattern leading, right? But we're only going to add a pattern leading to it depending on if the message is sent or not. Okay, create a little bit of space. We're going to add another pattern trailing as well. Again, depending on the message direction. Okay, now let's go back to alignments. So what I would like for us to do with alignments, because as you can tell, we're going to have to do this alignment logic over and over again as well for like our bubble image view, our bubble audio view, and all of the other components for messages. So I say we migrate this into as a computer property inside of our message item itself. And what I'm really going to do is I'm going to create the first alignment right above the background color. So I'm going to say alignment, and it's going to be of type alignment. And I'm just going to say is received. It's going to be leading, else it's trailing. And honestly, I'm just going to create an horizontal alignment as well for a VStack. Horizontal alignments, and I'm going to say if the direction is received, same thing. And now we're going to go right back to our bubble text view, and we're going to say alignments is equals to item dot alignments. That looks way more cleaner. Okay, you can see how we pushed it to the leading and trailing. Well, we're not done because you can see the text is still centered, and we don't want that. So we're going to do the same logic here. We're going to say the alignment of this VStack should be based on item dot horizontal alignments. We're going to let Xcode fix this then. And what do we have here? We have a good looking bubble text view. That's what we have. And to be able to see what's really going on, let's just go into our message list controller. And below here, let's create a preview using the preview macro. And we're just going to call the message list view. So this is inside of our message list controller. And as you can see, this is what it actually looks like, which is not bad at all. I think that looks very close to what we have in mind. I'm going to change this from sent placeholder to received placeholder. Let's see what that looks like. Let's perhaps change the background color of our table view to red, like we initially did, just so we can see the whites. As you can see the white color right there. We're going to fix the actual background color in upcoming episode, but I think this is a very good place to stop. And as you can see, the project is coming along very rapidly. We created our bubble text view in this episode. In the next episode, we're going to create our bubble image view and then consequently bubble audio views and some of the other components that we're going to need. And so before we run out of time for this episode, let us run our project on a simulator and see what that actually looks like. Okay, we have a simulator here. If we go to our chat, we go to our chat room. This is what it looks like. That is not bad. We are making great progress. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It means the world to me. Appreciate you guys. Bye.